The lighthouse without light. The storm came suddenly, fierce and unrelenting, with sheets of rain pelting down and waves crashing violently against the rocky shore. A small ferry carrying a group of tourists veered off course, forced to seek refuge on a barren island in the middle of nowhere. The island was dark and cold, its jagged cliffs rising ominously against the raging sea. As the passengers disembarked, the captain pointed to the only structure in sight. A towering lighthouse standing at the edge of the island, its silhouette barely visible in the gloom. The group hurried toward it, struggling against the wind and rain. The lighthouse, weathered and battered by time, stood silent and lifeless. Its light had been extinguished for years, the glass of its lens cracked and smeared with grime. Despite its desolation, the tourists had little choice. They pushed open the heavy wooden door and stepped inside. The interior of the lighthouse was eerily quiet. Dust covered the furniture, and the air was thick with the scent of damp wood and salt. The group, 9 in total, huddled together, their voices hushed as they assessed their surroundings. There was an old spiral staircase leading to the top, its metal railing rusted and its steps creaking underfoot. Below was a small kitchen, a few empty rooms, and a storage area cluttered with forgotten relics. A woman named Ellen, one of the more pragmatic members of the group, suggested they split up to gather supplies and look for anything useful. Most of the group agreed, though a few were reluctant to wander through the lighthouse alone. As they dispersed, the wind howled through the cracks in the walls, creating an unsettling melody that seemed to echo throughout the structure. Ellen and a man named David, a quiet, middle-aged teacher, climbed to the top of the lighthouse. The view from the observation deck was obscured by the storm, but the remnants of the old light were still there. As they inspected the machinery, David noticed something strange. Scratches etched into the metal, forming what looked like a warning. "Keep it out," it read. The words sent a chill down his spine, but he said nothing, unsure of how to explain his unease without sounding foolish. Meanwhile, downstairs, a young couple named Sarah and Mark explored the storage room. They found old tools, broken lanterns, and a tattered journal with pages so faded it was nearly illegible. One sentence stood out, written in bold, frantic letters: "The light must never go out." Sarah shivered as she read it aloud, her voice trembling. Mark dismissed it as the ramblings of a lonely keeper, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As the night wore on, the group reconvened in the main hall to share what they'd found. The journal, the scratches, and the strange atmosphere of the lighthouse left them uneasy, but there was little they could do. The storm showed no signs of abating, and they were trapped for the time being. They decided to make the best of it, lighting candles and trying to create a semblance of warmth in the cold, empty space. It was around midnight when the first strange occurrence took place. Ellen, who had volunteered to keep watch, heard a noise coming from the storage room. It was faint at first, like the sound of footsteps shuffling across the floor. She called out, but there was no response. Grabbing a lantern, she ventured into the room, her heart pounding. The light flickered as she scanned the space, finding nothing out of the ordinary. But as she turned to leave, she caught a glimpse of something in the corner of her eye's shadow, darker than the surrounding darkness, moving against the wall. Ellen backed away, her breathing rapid, but the shadow didn't follow. Instead, it seemed to dissolve into the floor, leaving her questioning whether she'd seen anything at all. She decided not to tell the others, fearing it would only add to their growing unease. By dawn, the group was exhausted. The storm had not let up, and their nerves were frayed. Ellen wasn't the only one who had experienced something strange. Others reported hearing whispers, seeing fleeting shapes, or feeling an inexplicable coldness. Tensions rose as they debated what to do, but the storm still raged, and they were trapped. It was on the second night that the truth began to reveal itself. The group decided to explore the lighthouse further, hoping to uncover its secrets. In the basement, hidden behind a false wall, they discovered a room filled with strange artifact symbols etched into the stone. Melted candles ranged in a circle, and a massive, rusted lever connected to an ancient mechanism. At the center of the room was a pedestal with a single phrase carved into it: "The light keeps it away." David, now thoroughly unnerved, pieced together the clues. The lighthouse hadn't been built to guide ships. It had been constructed to keep something at bay, something that came from the sea, something that thrived in darkness. The scratches, the journal, and the strange occurrences all pointed to one conclusion: whatever it was real. Despite their fear, the group decided to restore the light. They worked tirelessly to repair the machinery, using the tools they'd found in the storage room. As they worked, the strange occurrences intensified. Shadows moved where there were no people, the whispers grew louder, and the coldness became unbearable. It was as if the lighthouse itself was alive, resisting their efforts.
Finally, they succeeded. With a deafening groan, the mechanism roared to life, and the light pierced through the storm, illuminating the dark sea. For a moment, the group felt a sense of relief, but it was short-lived. From the observation deck, they saw something moving in the water, something massive and unnatural, retreating into the depths as the light touched it. The storm began to subside, and by morning, the sea was calm. The group left the lighthouse, shaken but alive, and made their way back to the mainland. They agreed never to speak of what they had seen, knowing no one would believe them. But the memory of the lighthouse and the thing that lurked in the dark would haunt them forever.